balance there. Somebody from the South versus somebody from the North. There's also a balance of temperaments there between the brusque, kind of inarticulate but in-your-face Donald Trump and a very careful spoken former judge, Senator Sessions. So if you want to see the rest of that report, we got 7 minutes of that left. You can see it on the Real Alex Jones channel. We're going to be right back. Alex Jones is going to be doing a live Facebook mention talking about 6/6/16 and what's behind it. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. This is the beginning of the fourth hour, but as Alex was leaving, I mentioned to him the fact that it is 6/6/16 and all the different things that are happening with this. And, of course, it's not just what's happening with the chip. Alex wanted to talk about that. But, of course, Alex is also Bilderberg is starting this week. We've got Brexit. Everything is at the cusp. We've got world government that is breaking out or people trying to break out of it. Absolutely.
The Pope's calling for world government, saying the Christian roots. He's ashamed of the Christian roots. He used a worse word. He abhors hearing about them. It's terrible. He dreads. We can pull up that exact quote. So I'm going to get out of here in 5 minutes, but I was leaving to a meeting that I'm already late for. And you were like, yeah, 666, all this weird occult stuff going on. That's what I'm going to cover coming up, which you're going to do in a moment. And I went, oh, my gosh, that's it. Because I was on air Friday when this came out and Saturday and Sunday. And I read this article from Infowars.com. Come on over here, Buckley, or maybe Document Cam in there. Why is there suddenly such a huge push for Mark of the Beast in technology? And they're just all over the news. Suddenly, yes, you're going to have a chip. Yes, we're getting rid of cash. So what you think? And I got so excited about this, I'm even sweating all of a sudden. It's like 65 degrees in here. And it all clicked. These are their people pushing in the media and the system to throw it in our face, just like world government. We've seen more Mark of the Beast is good for you, get rid of cash, put a chip in your kids in the last month than I've ever seen in 21 years on air. I mean, it has been a full onslaught. And the mystery is, it's 666. That's the day. It's June 6th. The month is 6. The day is 6. The year is 16. In numerology, the last number. That's why they're doing rituals everywhere. Yeah. That's why they're launching. I bet they pull something today. I bet there's a mass killing or, some big tragedy. They're doing all this garbage because they're bringing it in. Like your mothers and fathers are bad. Jesus is bad. We abhor Christians. Bringing in the Muslims. And the EU proposing a ID to use the internet and to tax it and track you and control you. Satan is planning to celebrate 6/6/16 in L.A. This is their big coming out. This is their big push, and it ties into everything else we're facing, everything else we're seeing. I mean, undoubtedly, just open. Your kid will get a chip. It's inevitable. We played that clip a week ago. Paul did a viral video on it. We can cue it up and play it in the next segment. I mean, it's just everywhere. Your kid will get a chip. It's inevitable. If that isn't the mark of the beast, if a cashless society and parents being persecuted and being turned off the internet if you don't submit to the world government so you can't even have a job, and it being digitally erased in an electronic concentration camp, if that isn't the mark of the beast, if the devil isn't real, they've taken the idea and they're doing it, David. They're manifesting it.
Well, it's real to them, or they wouldn't be putting a pentagram around L.A. today is when they're doing it in L.A.
David, this is just incredible. Your thoughts for a minute. I've made my point here. Tell us what you got coming up.
Well, one of the things we're going to cover, and we're going to cover it tonight on the Nightly News because there's a lot of visuals about it. There was also, Alex, on June the 1st, there was a grand opening ceremony for this massive rail tunnel through the Swiss mountains, the Goddard train. It's a railroad underground tunnel. But the ceremony, Alex, that they had was truly bizarre. It's one of the most bizarre occultic ceremonies you'll see. So we're going to show clips of that. We're going to talk about what's behind that, as well as
remember the all-seeing eye on the 9/11 event.
Oh yeah. But this is really strange. I mean, people who've seen the movie done by Terry Gilliam, Brazil, you're going to the dream sequences. They've got this topless woman flying with feathers and this big baby head on. I mean, and they got people marching around like they're in a trance. It is truly bizarre.
They admit that these things are big mass rituals.
Yeah.
And that's how they program society, and they're doing it, folks. And most of these elites are totally mentally ill. That's why it doesn't make sense to a lot of us. David Knight, great job, folks. That is the mystery of all this Mark of the Beast promotion. It has to do with the 666 day. They're celebrating it. They're trying to bring it in. They're trying to bring in the Antichrist. They're trying to bring in the false New Age. Because when Christ truly returns, that's when the true New Age begins for 1,000 years. There's a real Illuminati. That's just for freedom and openness. There's a false Illuminati. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show on this 6/6/16. And as you just heard when Alex was in here, we were doing a Facebook Mentions Live, we were talking about the significance, not just to Christians, but to the Satanists who are putting a pentagram around L.A. this day. And as we pointed out tonight, we're going to have a special report of the strange occultic rituals that surrounded the grand opening of a train tunnel through the Goddard Mountains in Switzerland. You will not believe the imagery of that. We're going to play a clip in honor of 6616. We're going to play a short clip of a microchip report in just a minute. Before we do, I want to remind you that today is the last day that we have of 20% off of Lung Cleanse at InfoWarsLife.com. This is the final day to get 20% off Lung Cleanse at InfoWarsLife.com. This is something that I use to get my throat in condition. If I've got a little bit of a cough or something or some dust in it's a great throat clear. It's a great way to cleanse your lung. We have that. It's 20% off. And also, we're talking about fresh air. We have a new product, Alexa Pure Breeze. This is the final day of our introductory sale on that, 25% off. That's a huge savings. $184.99 will be your net cost with that. 25% off retail. It ends tonight. This is the Alexa Pure Breeze. It is an energy-efficient HEPA filter. It's ion cluster. It cycles the air through your rooms to get at, it basically takes out all the impurities in your locked up, tight as a drum house. Most of the houses are that way because you're trying to get it efficient for heating, for cooling, so you get everything tight for that. But then it keeps all the pollutants in your house circulating around. So you want to get that out of there. This is a great way to do it. It's very space-saving. It's perfect for rooms up to about 800 square feet. It's very silent. It is less than a whisper. A whisper is 30 dB. This is 16 dB. Very energy efficient, and the end product is clean water. Check that out at InfoWarsStore.com. We have an introductory offer of that, 25% off the Alexa Pure Breeze, and today is the last day for that, as well as a 20% off Lung Cleanse that you'll see at InfoWarsLife.com. Okay, let's run that clip on the microchip report, because this is something, as Alex pointed out, there's been a lot of pushing of microchips, of a cashless society. This is the beginning of Bilderberg, which has been pushing world government. That's been the purpose of Bilderberg since its inception. We'll talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk today about Brexit. We're going to talk about the push to confiscate land. This is another push by Obama, but even more interesting is the way the Washington Post is pushing it. But before we do all that news, let's play that clip on microchips.
You know, chances are if you have a four-legged family member at home, it's already microchipped. And if the technology exists to save Fido in an emergency, what about microchipping your child? Before you say, no way, I would never do that, hear one mom's story.
It's the longest 2 seconds of your life, and it's absolute panic.
I want my son back.
We've seen it in movies.
This is my daughter.
Over and over again, children gone missing.
It's terrifying.
For Stephanie Rodriguez-Neely, life is busier than ever, with 4 children, including a newborn. She knows scary situations can happen in an instant, and for her, it has.
If it'll save my kid, there's no step that's too extreme.
Stephanie's teenage daughter is a special needs child, prone to wander off and trust strangers. For that very reason, Stephanie wholeheartedly welcomes microchipping.
Isn't that special? All right, we're going to stop it at that point. And I would just say this. You've got a special needs child. You're concerned the child is going to run off and get into trouble. Understand. Also understand the health consequences of putting those transmitters on your dogs even. Okay, there's been a lot of increase in terms of tumors at the sites where they put these radio transmitters into dogs. I wouldn't do it to my dog, and I wouldn't do it to my child, and I wouldn't do it to my elderly parent who suffers from dementia either, and I wouldn't do it to myself, because you know what? It's not just the health issues. It is also the issues of freedom, folks. We cannot continue to sell ourselves into slavery for the promise of security. They never deliver it. They tell you, give up your freedom, we'll make you more prosperous, we'll make you safer. Slaves are never safer. Slaves never get richer. When are we going to learn that? When are we going to learn that to the degree that we give up our liberty, we become slaves? They continue to offer us this Faustian bargain, and we never realize that the devil's got a trick up his sleeve. No matter how many times they skunk us, they keep doing it to us over and over again. And this is just another example of that. putting this out there saying, well, it's great. It's for your dogs. It's for your special needs children. It's for your elderly people that we need to keep track of. No. There's an agenda behind this, folks. We've pointed that out many, many times. All right, now, I've got a lot of disjointed news here that I just want to cover a little bit at a time. One of these things here is kind of, I think it's very interesting as we look at the people that are being brought into this country by Obama. And I mentioned this briefly yesterday, how we've had situations in Vermont, and they reported that, hey, look, 35% of the people coming into Vermont have tuberculosis. Many people in America don't really get concerned about that because they've forgotten what tuberculosis is, because it only affects about 5% of the people here. But globally, the average is about 35%. And of the places where Obama is bringing people in without vetting them, without doing any health tests on them, in many of the Asian and African countries, it is up to 80% of the people who have tuberculosis. Remember they called it consumption? Maybe you want to go back and look at some of the old Westerns where they got Doc Holliday and he's spitting up blood and dying because it will kill you. And you say, well, we got treatments for that in the first world. Well, yes, but there are also drug-resistant strains of tuberculosis as well. Do you want to bring that in here as well? This is a deliberate move by Obama in so many different ways. It seems like he is hell-bent on destroying this country, destroying our way of life, destroying our health. And yet they keep offering us safety. Just take the chip. You'll be fine. But we're bringing in all these people who hate America, who want what you have, and in many cases who are coming in untested for disease, untested for being criminals, untested for being terrorists. And now we just saw this last weekend as it broke, we had workers in two Minnesota hospitals that were diagnosed with active TB. These are two workers. Both of these hospitals were owned by one company, Alena Health. They say one hospital worker at each of these sites. Now they're saying neither of these workers were involved with refugee screening activity. Sure, okay, except that last year, a local newspaper reported 3 employees of another clinic owned by this same company within 10 miles of these two hospitals where the two workers were just diagnosed with active tuberculosis received awards from Anoka County, the 4th most populous county in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, for their volunteer work medically screening refugees. Yeah, okay. So there you go. They tell you one thing and they do another, and that's a report from Breitbart. But I want to focus on something else, and that is, what if our government, as they bring in these refugees, they don't screen them? We know that they are bringing in diseases to be used as weapons, as bioweapons. They call them select agents, and they try to give them what they call, in Pentagon talk, gain of function. That means that they make them more deadly, and that means that they make them more easily transmittable. And these are the kinds of research that are being performed by the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, and other biolab companies. Now, there's a reporter at USA Today, Allison Young, and she's done a lot of work following this. This is her beat. And she does a lot of work talking about the biolab failures at the CDC. And she just had one that broke at the end of the week. And I want to read you a little bit of this scenario just to get you the idea of how dangerous this is. Now, this is, the title is Newly Disclosed CDC Biolab Failures are, quote, like a screenplay for a disaster movie. And listen to this. It does read like a disaster movie. Encased in spacesuit-like gear, needed to protect them from the world's deadliest viruses, 4 scientists at the CDC stepped into their lab's decontamination chamber, where a shower of chemicals was supposed to kill anything on them and make it safe for them to exit into an adjacent changing room. But the shower wouldn't start, and warning lights appeared as a cascading series of safety systems began to fail inside one of the world's most advanced biosafety level 4 labs. That's the highest level, folks. She goes on to say that in the next sentence. Reserved for work with deadly Ebola and smallpox viruses and other pathogens that lack vaccines or reliable treatments. The gasket seal around the exit door in the changing room deflated to the point that the scientists could see light coming in. See, there's a positive pressure, so they have no air escaping from this thing, but the gasket seal just broke down. So they could see light coming in through this seal that is supposed to be airtight. As they held the door shut, and they started an emergency chemical deluge, things got even worse. The shower's door back into the infectious disease lab forcefully burst open again and again, and they couldn't even hold it shut. Meanwhile, air pressure alarms were blinking